Iran has delivered its response to the U.S. ceasefire proposal through Pakistan, offering to increase its uranium enrichment suspension but to less than 20 years. However, President Donald Trump said the proposal was totally unacceptable. Seoul's top office on Monday condemned the recent attack on the South Korean-operated cargo ship Namu, saying attacks on civilian vessels in the Strait of Hormuz were unacceptable. Korea has unveiled the criteria for the second round of its high oil price relief payments set to begin on May 18th, targeting the bottom 70% of income earners based on health insurance premiums, while excluding high-asset households. The Blue House has strongly condemned last week's attack on a South Korean container ship in the Strait of Hormuz, having confirmed that an unidentified aircraft was the cause of the recent fire on the container ship. Seoul is still learning about who's behind the attacks. Our Yoon Jung-min starts us off.
The day after a set of attacks was identified as the cause of the recent fire on a South Korean cargo ship stranded in Hormuz, National Security Advisor Lee Jung-hoo sent out a strong condemnation.
Our government strongly condemns any attack on civilian ships, including Namu, as it is not justifiable or acceptable.
The Korean government has confirmed that attacks by two unidentified aircraft were behind last week's fire on the cargo vessel. It is still learning about the details, including the source of the attack.
Given the pattern of the damage and the hemispherical-shaped area of penetration, the chances of a mine or torpedo attack appear to be low.
The chief advisor added that Seoul will take a further look into the origin of the launch, as well as the exact type and physical size of the objects. We added that Seoul will double its efforts to secure the safety of Korean sailors and vessels near the strait, and continue its efforts to join an international move to guarantee the safety of all vessels and freedom of navigation. A senior-level official at the top office noted that the authorities are not at the stage of specifying the origin of the attack, and appropriate levels of measures will be taken after the probe is concluded. When asked about any involvement by Iran, the official said it's in an unknown area. On U.S. President Donald Trump accusing Tehran of firing at the Korean ship soon after the incident, the senior Blue House official added that they have communicated with Washington, but it remains unclear on what grounds Trump has made such a statement. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
U.S. President Donald Trump has rejected Iran's latest proposal to end the war, calling the terms totally unacceptable. Now, the development marks a setback for Trump, who said last week that the war would be over soon. Park Jun-han has this report.
U.S. President Donald Trump has dismissed Iran's response to a proposal by Washington to end the war as totally unacceptable. Taking to social media on Sunday, Trump said he had reviewed the response from Iran's representatives and expressed his clear disapproval. According to reports from Iranian state media, Tehran sent a counter-proposal through Pakistani mediators, which included several high-stakes demands. Those are believed to include the payment of war reparations by the United States, full Iranian sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz, an immediate end to all sanctions, and the release of seized Iranian assets. While a ceasefire agreed last month largely remains in place, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Mike Waltz said a diplomatic resolution to end the war is being pursued, with Trump giving diplomacy every chance. Speaking to ABC News on Sunday, Waltz said it remains the president's decision to determine what constitutes a ceasefire violation, when to resume hostilities, or when to take a diplomatic route. Waltz also pointed to mounting economic pressure on Tehran, saying the U.S. naval blockade has effectively crippled Iranian shipping in and out of the country. Adding to this pressure, in an interview on the news magazine show Full Measure released Sunday, Trump said that combat operations may not be entirely over. He noted that while Iran is defeated, the U.S. could still carry out strikes for 2 more weeks to hit remaining targets, claiming that approximately 70% of intended objectives have been completed so far. Diplomatic channels remain open through mediators in Pakistan, though no new dates for high-level talks have been announced. Park Jun-han, Arirang News.
The Trump administration has confirmed this week's planned trip to Beijing by President Donald Trump for a summit with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping on Thursday. Lee Jung-hoo tells us more.
The White House announced Sunday that U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping will hold a summit meeting in Beijing on Thursday. It will be the first face-to-face meeting between the two leaders in about 6 months since they met in Busan last October. Security issues surrounding Iran and Russia are expected to dominate the talks. The Trump administration believes China has indirectly supported both countries through trade, dual-use goods, and exports tied to military and industrial sectors. Senior U.S. officials say Trump is expected to press China on those concerns, especially after Washington recently imposed sanctions connected to Iran and Russia-related trade activities. Economic issues are also expected to be a major factor. The two sides are likely to discuss the creation of new U.S.-China trade and investment committees aimed at managing bilateral disputes and expanding cooperation. Possible agreements in aviation, agriculture, energy, and space are also expected to be on the agenda. The U.S. president is expected to arrive in Beijing on Wednesday evening and hold multiple meetings with President Xi over 2 days, including a state dinner and working lunch. Meanwhile, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is expected to visit Seoul this week before traveling to China. During his one-day visit, Bessent is expected to meet South Korean Finance Minister Koo Yoon-chul to discuss foreign exchange markets and broader economic cooperation. Im Sung-jae, Arirang News.
And South Korea's defense minister is in Washington for his first talks with his U.S. counterpart since taking office. With a wartime operational control transfer and possible cooperation in the Strait of Hormuz expected high on the agenda. Our defense correspondent Kim Bo-kyung reports.
South Korea's defense minister An Yu-baek arrived in Washington, D.C. on Sunday local time for talks with his U.S. counterpart Pete Hegseth. In his first visit to the U.S. since taking office in July last year, An is expected to stay for 4 days and 3 nights before returning to South Korea on Wednesday. The two defense chiefs are slated to have talks on Monday morning at Pentagon, with key items expected to include the transfer of wartime operational control from Washington to Seoul. Regarding the OPCON transfer, An said that South Korea has been preparing for the transition systematically, stably, and consistently, underlining that speeding up the transfer process should not pose a major problem. He added that finalizing our target year for the transfer at this year's Security Consultative Meeting would also be one of the key issues to discuss during the visit. The Lee Jae-myung administration has been aiming to complete the transition before President Lee's 5-year term ends in 2030. With a reported target for 2028, while General Xavier Bronson of the U.S. Forces Korea had recently said the first quarter of 2029 was the target time frame for meeting the conditions. When it comes to the negotiations on South Korea's nuclear-powered submarine ambitions, An showed confidence that talks could begin before the end of the first half of the year. He said he intends to strengthen cooperation between the two countries to bring the matter to fruition. The two sides may also discuss cooperation to restore freedom of navigation through the Strait of Hormuz. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Fueled by a blistering semiconductor rally, Korea's benchmark KOSPI is charging toward the 8,000 mark just 2 days after breaking above 7,000, adding more than 1,000 trillion Korean won in market value in only 8 trading sessions. Kim Jun-hong reports.
Chip heavyweights powered the KOSPI to yet another record close Monday, with the benchmark index ending 4.32% higher at 7,822.24. Just 3 trading days after breaking through 7,000 for the first time, the index is already nearing 8,000, with strong buying momentum triggering a buy-side sidecar shortly after opening. Powered by the rally, Korea's total stock market capitalization topped 7,000 trillion won, approximately $4.7 trillion for the first time ever Monday. The market's rapid climb came just 8 trading days after it first surpassed 6,000 trillion won. The country's two chip giants once again dominated the rally, making up roughly 4/5 of the KOSPI's gains. Samsung Electronics rose 6.3%, while SK hynix surged 11.5%. Monday's rally followed growing optimism for memory chip stocks in overseas markets over the weekend.
Positive news surrounding Micron and reports of potential big tech investment in SK hynix appear to have strengthened expectations for a prolonged upcycle in DRAM prices.
With global investor attention firmly fixed on semiconductors, Korea's chip-heavy market continues to ride the boom, with optimism growing that the rally still has further room to run.
Korea's stock market valuation still remains low compared to other major markets. Based on current earnings projections, the KOSPI could theoretically move above the 10,000 mark. The recent gains appear to reflect upgraded earnings forecasts rather than a full leasing of the Korea discount.
Still, concerns are growing that the rally is overly reliant on semiconductors, with gains in other sectors remaining relatively weak. As long as the chip boom continues, the market may keep pushing higher, but any slowdown in the sector could quickly shake the broader market. Kim Jun-ong, Arirang News.
In the meantime, Korea is facing mounting inflation risks as global oil prices surge following the collapse of U.S.-Iran peace talks. With the Strait of Hormuz effectively shut down, the Korea Development Institute warns a resulting transport-driven price shock could hit the Korean economy twice as hard as a typical supply-side disruption. Kim Do-yeon reports.
Korea is facing severe inflationary threats as global oil prices surge amid the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. As of early Monday for Korea, Brent crude was trading at around $105 per barrel, while Dubai crude was trading at $97 a barrel. The sustained geopolitical tension has left critical waterways like the Strait of Hormuz effectively paralyzed, severely disrupting global energy supply chains. The physical blockade of shipping routes is hitting the Korean economy harder than a conventional supply shortage. According to a report released on Monday by the Korea Development Institute, a 10% rise in oil prices driven by transport uncertainty pushes domestic consumer inflation up by 0.20 percentage points. This is nearly double the 0.11 percentage point impact observed during standard market fluctuations. The domestic economy remains highly vulnerable, relying on the Middle East for about 70% of its crude imports. The KDI warns that if Dubai crude sustains an average of $105 a barrel, South Korea could see consumer inflation rise by 1.6 percentage points this year. Under this prolonged high price scenario, the inflationary impact would persist, potentially adding 1.8 percentage points to consumer prices in 2027. The economic effects are not limited to petroleum products. The KDI emphasizes that transport-driven oil shocks demonstrate higher persistence, spilling over into core inflation by raising costs for non-petroleum industrial goods and services.
This analysis does not factor in the government's policy responses, such as price caps and fuel tax cuts. If these measures are taken into account, they are expected to mitigate the overall impact on consumer prices.
While the government's recent fuel tax cuts and price caps have provided a temporary buffer, long-term price stability remains tightly linked to the resolution of the Middle East crisis. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
And starting next week, South Korea will launch the second round of high oil price relief payments for the bottom 70% of income earners, with support up to 250,000 won, depending on region and eligibility. Cho Young-eun has the details.
The South Korean government will begin distributing a second round of high oil price relief payments starting May 18. The government moves to ease the financial burden caused by soaring fuel prices and rising living costs amid the Middle East crisis. The support programs targets the bottom 70% of income earners, covering around 36 million people nationwide. Under the government's region-based support policy, eligible residents in the Seoul metropolitan area will receive 100,000 won, or about $68. Those living outside the capital region will receive 150,000 won, while residents in areas facing population decline may receive up to 200,000 won. Special support regions will receive the maximum payment of 250,000 won.
The impact of the Middle East war is affecting not only vulnerable groups, but also ordinary and middle-class households, requiring more proactive fiscal support. Accordingly, the government plans to provide a second round of high oil price relief funds to ease people's financial burdens and support economic recovery.
Eligibility will be determined based on health insurance premium records from March, as individuals with high-value assets or significant financial income will be excluded from the program. The application and payment period will run for about 7 weeks through July 3rd. Those who are eligible for the first round of payments but have not yet applied will also be able to do so during the same period. The high oil price relief funds will be limited to use within the local jurisdiction tied to each recipient's registered address. Recipients may choose to receive the payments through credit cards, debit cards, local gift certificates, or prepaid cards, and use them at affiliated stores with annual sales of 3 billion won or less. As with the first round, the funds must be spent by August 31st, with any remaining balance to expire afterward. Restricted businesses include online shopping platforms, entertainment and gambling-related establishments, and cash equivalent businesses in line with restrictions commonly applied to local gift certificate programs. 조영은, Arirang News.
The Pacific Asia Travel Association annual summits taking place in southern cities of Pohang and Gyeongju through Wednesday, bringing together tourism insiders for discussions on building a more resilient future for the industry. And our culture correspondent Park Kwon-woo sat down with the PATA CEO to discuss the future of Korean tourism.
Drawing nearly 19 million tourists to Korea last year was a clear positive signal for the country's tourism. An expert at the Pacific Asia Travel Association annual summit said that Korea needs to look beyond the numbers.
But then the question now that Korea need to ask themselves is that, are you just looking at numbers? It's about how do you manage the destination well? And I think if that's being done in a more cohesive way, I think Korea will be a very, very appealing destination.
Looking beyond K-pop and K-culture, Hamid pointed to other areas where Korea leads the way in order to attract more visitors: sustainability.
Korea is one of the destinations that do very well in a lot of areas of sustainability, including food waste management. That also teaches the visitors when they come to Korea to do the same. In the long run, I think Korean will gain more because I think you have a huge respect to nature and culture and preservation.
The CEO cited Jeju Island as a notable example of balancing tourism growth with sustainability, while addressing over-tourism, a challenge also faced by popular destinations like Barcelona.
They have actually come up with a real-time measurement on the hotspot area within the island. Destination needs to have those kind of mechanism, and I think Jeju has already been doing that, which is very successful. I think because they know that while they want the business from travel and tourism, but they need to protect their tourism asset.
One of the key agenda topics at this year's PATA summit is regional tourism, an issue Korea is also grappling with as it seeks to spread visitor demand beyond the capital region.
So this year's annual summit is being hosted in 2 cities across South Korea, Pohang and Gyeongju. Why were these 2 cities selected, and does it have any symbolic significance, especially in terms of the future of tourism within the Asia-Pacific region?
The APEC last year, which is I think a huge success, and really put Gyeongju into the map. You also have Pohang, which has different attributes and attractions. We need to walk our talk to start exploring cities beyond the comfort zone.
And especially as this year marks the 75th anniversary of PATA, Hamid says Korea's continuous contribution and collaboration with the organization and its members will be key for both to create a more sustainable future in tourism. Park Kwon-woo, Arirang News, Pohang.
Time now to take a look at what's been happening in the world of sports. For that, we have our sports editor, Paul Nate, joining us in the studio. Hello, Paul.
Hello.
Paul, why don't we start with baseball and yet another KBO attendance milestone.
I know, right? Yes, already the KBO has reached 3 million fans, and 3 million was reached in the fewest games ever. The KBO announced at the tail end of last week that it had been done in 166 games. The previous record set just last year was 175. The KBO has already set new records for 1 million and 2 million fans earlier this season. Last year, it set a new overall record of 12.3 million fans and is on course to break that record. Meanwhile, another interesting record was broken, this time on the field of play. Arirang Rodriguez of the Kia Tigers on Friday became the first player to hit 4 home runs from his first 4 hits in the KBO. Rodriguez is on a 6-week deal as an emergency cover for injured outfielder Harold Castro, but homered in his first game on Tuesday last week, hit 2 more on Wednesday and added a 2-run homer on Friday after going 0 for 5 the day before.
I see. Well, staying with baseball, quite a productive afternoon for Lee Jung-hoo in MLB MSA.
Yes, right. He went 2 for 6 on Sunday for the San Francisco Giants. It was his first multi-hit game in 2 games. He started as the leadoff hitter and right fielder for the Giants at home against the Pittsburgh Pirates. In the 3rd inning, he hits a double to right field. It was his 9th double of the season to raise his batting average to .270. He later came around to score on a hit by teammate Luis Arraez. It was a 7-6 win for the Giants, who had to go to extra innings to seal the win. Meanwhile, also on Sunday, Son Sung-moon of the San Diego Padres recorded his 2nd stolen base of the season. After striking out in his first at-bat in the 2nd inning, Son drew a leadoff walk in the 5th and stole second base during a strikeout by the following batter, Rodolfo Duran. But the Padres failed to bring him home as no follow-up hits were recorded.
To golf now, Im Sung-jae, I heard, put on a quite solid performance at the Tourist Championship. Tell us more.
Yes, he did. He finished tied for 5th. This means a 2nd top 10 PGA finish of the season. His good form is somewhat timely with a major coming up next, the PGA Championship. On Sunday, Im finished at 11 under par, 4 strokes behind the winner, Christopher Reitan of Norway. He was actually in the lead after the first 2 rounds with scores of 64 and 69. But then he lost. He was over 70 for the final 2 days, leading to the 5th place finish. Im started his season a bit late in March after recovering from a wrist injury.
Well, good luck to him in the major later this week. Now, finally to football, Paul. The World Cup is less than 30 days away, but I understand we are already looking ahead to the AFC Asian Cup next January. Is that so?
Yes, right, because the group stage draw was made just at the weekend just gone. And South Korea are in Group E, along with the United Arab Emirates, Vietnam, and either Lebanon or Yemen, who will face each other on June 4th to decide the final spot. The tournament will be held in Saudi Arabia from January 7th to February 5th. Now, South Korea are looking to win an Asian Cup for the first time since 1960. In the last edition in 2024, the team, then led by Jürgen Klinsmann, reached the semis but lost 2-0 to Jordan.
Well, even more look forward to then. Thanks, Paul, for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Unlike the bright spring weather we enjoyed over the weekend, rain is expected across most parts of the country through tomorrow. By early tomorrow morning, the rain will spread to Jeollanam-do province and Jeju Island. While it'll mostly ease by tomorrow afternoon, showers may linger into the evening in Gyeongsangnam-do province and Jeju Islands. As for expected rainfall, up to 60 millimeters is forecast for the Jeollado provinces. Seoul, Incheon, and northern Gyeonggi-do province are expected to receive around 10 millimeters. As the rain moves through, some areas may also see lightning and hail, so please take extra care. Tomorrow, Seoul will start the day at 15 degrees Celsius, Chuncheon at 14 degrees, Jeju at 16 degrees. Then by the afternoon, Seoul will get up to 22 degrees. Chuncheon, Daegu, Gyeongju will all top out at 22 degrees. After the rain stops, warmer weather will return. And by the end of the week, daytime highs will reach up to 30 degrees, bringing early summer-like heat.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.